Hey everyone, it's Arash here, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to design a modern dashboard UI in Figma from scratch. So if you're one of those people who has difficulties designing dashboard UIs, don't worry, because I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know, such as setting up a proper grid, creating bar charts, line charts, cards, and so much more. So if you're ready, let's dive in. Alright, first of all, I'd like to ask you to go ahead and get a copy of a design guide that I prepared for you for this project. So go to the community and right here in the search bar, look for design with Arash without a space, and you will find this Figma project. It's called Dashboard Design Guide. You can just get a copy right here and you can use it as a starting point for this project. So here I prepared a few colors and also a few icons. For this project, I used a plugin to get these icons, and it's called Icon Sags right here. It provides you with beautiful and clean icons for your project. So if you need more icons, you can always check out this particular plugin or other plugins in the community. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. First of all, we need to go ahead and create a frame. I'm going to hit A on my keyboard and I'm going to use this desktop frame right here. So the width is set to 1440, perfect. I'm going to decrease the height to 900 pixels and let me rename this frame to dashboard. One thing many designers struggle with when it comes to dashboard design is the way they can create a layout grid for a dashboard, because usually for a dashboard we have a fixed size slide menu on the left side and then the rest of the content will be placed on the right side. So let me show you how you can conveniently create a layout grid for your dashboard design. As I said, for a dashboard design, we usually divide our whole page, our whole screen's width into two main parts: the slide menu part on the left side and the content on the right side. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to create a rectangle for my slide menu, just like that. Okay, and I'm going to set its width to 280. There is no standard when it comes to these dimensions, but these are the values that I personally use when I want to design a dashboard. So here is our slide menu, and now we need a 12 column grid on the right side. So I'm going to select my frame and I'm going to click on this plus button in the layout grid section, just like that. Let me change the type of grid to columns and I'm going to increase the count to 12. Next, I'm going to set the type to left instead of stretch. And now I can easily set the width to 64 and the gutter to 24. The reason I use these two values is because I'm going to use an 8 pixel grid system for this project. So it's best to have values that are divisible by 8. Okay? And now I'm going to increase this offset to push these columns to the right side. So let me increase it just like that. I'm going to set it to 344, okay? And the reason I chose this value is because if I set it to 344, I will get an even left and right margin right here. So if I just create a rectangle, you see the width of this rectangle is 64. And if I duplicate it and move it to the right side, we have 64. And that's awesome, because most of the time when you create a layout grid for your dashboard design, you will not get an even left and right margins, and that's not good. So using these values, you can be sure that your design is going to be consistent. All right, good. So now that our layout grid is ready, let's start adding elements to our page. So first, I'm going to select this rectangle, which is going to be our slide menu, and I'm going to change its color to our primary color, which is this purple. And what do we need here? For the menu, we are going to have a few menu items. Basically, we are going to have 4 menu items: dashboard, customers, activities, reports, and also I'm going to place 2 menu items right at the bottom: settings and logout. And right at the top, we are going to place a logo. So let's start with the logo. Since it's a concept project, I'm going to use a fictional name. So I'm going to hit T on my keyboard and let's write Circle. It's going to be the name of this company. And for this project, I'm going to use the Poppins font. So let me change the font to Poppins. Next, I'm gonna increase the font size because it's too small. Let me increase it to 20 points. And also let me change its weight to bold. Good. And for the logo, I'm gonna just simply create a circle here. Let me set its width and height to 32 pixels. I'm gonna remove the fill and instead add a stroke to it. Let me adjust the thickness. I'm gonna set it to 7. And also let's make it white. And as I said, for this project, I'm gonna use an 8 pixel grid system. So my padding and margins should be divisible by 8 or 4, because sometimes we might need to have more flexibility in terms of spacing. So keep that in mind. I'm gonna set the left margin here to 16 pixels, just like that. And I'm gonna select them both and align them vertically, okay? Let me group them and I'm gonna call it logo. I don't wanna set the margins for this particular group now, because first we are gonna create our menu items and then we will align it with our menu items. All right, so let's start creating our menu items. I'm gonna hit T on my keyboard, left click to create a text layer, and let's write dashboard as our first menu item. Let me decrease the font size to 14 points. And also I'm gonna change the weight to medium. And for each menu item, we are gonna have an icon, okay? I already prepared these icons for you, so you can simply select this one, this home icon, duplicate it, bring it right here, okay? Let me align it with my text. I'm gonna zoom in. Again, the margin is gonna be 16 pixels. So let me set the margin, good. Select them both, align them vertically. I'm gonna select my icon, change its color to white, and then I'm gonna select these two. So hold down the shift key and select them both, and I'm gonna add auto layout to them, okay? So hit shift and A to add auto layout and make sure that the alignment is set to center. Okay, so far so good. So here is another part that many people struggle with. You may say that, all right, Arash, we can simply duplicate this frame, we can bring it down and simply change this icon. Yes, you can, but in that case, it would be very hard to set the margins, and it would be very hard to determine whether we have a good clickable area for this particular menu item. So a better way to align your menu items is to create a rectangle as a box and align the content inside that box, and later just align those boxes with each other. Let me show you what I mean. I'm gonna create a rectangle right here, just like that. So the width is 280 pixels and the height, I'm gonna set it to 72. And then I'm gonna decrease its opacity here to 0% because we don't wanna see it, okay? We just wanna use this rectangle to align our menu items. And now that we created this rectangle, we can hold down the shift key and select our frame, this one that we just created, and align them vertically and horizontally to the center. Now I'm gonna hit Ctrl G to group them, and let's call it menu item. And now we can simply duplicate this menu item, bring it down, and as you can see, we don't need to have any margin between these two rectangles, okay? All right, so as I said, we are gonna need 4 menu items right at the top. So let me duplicate it, hit Ctrl D or Command D, bring it down, and once again, and 2 more, okay? I'm gonna select these 2, bring them down, and make sure that there is no space between these menu items, okay? Because we already have some internal padding. Now let me go ahead and quickly rename them. So I'm gonna start with this second one. Let me select this text layer. As you can see, since this rectangle is above this frame, it's hard to select our text. So I'm gonna bring it down here, and now I can simply double click on this text and I can change it to customers. And then let me change this one to activities. And finally this one to reports. Just like that. Now let me quickly change their icons. I'm gonna select this one. I'm gonna duplicate it and just drag it and drop it inside this auto layout frame. We can select this one, remove it, and just change its color to white. I'm gonna repeat the same process for the other icons. For these activities, we are gonna need this one. I'm gonna duplicate it, drag it and drop it inside. Let me remove the other icon and just change its color to white. And next, I'm gonna select this one, duplicate it, drag it and drop it inside, and remove the old icon. And finally, change its color to white. Perfect. We have two more menu items here. We need to change their text. So let's start with the text. I'm gonna select it and I'm gonna change it to settings. And for this one, I'm gonna write logout. Okay. And let's quickly change their icons. So for this one, for settings, I'm gonna use this one, duplicate it and drag it and drop it inside, just like this. Change its color to white and remove the old icon. Let's do the same thing for logout. I'm gonna duplicate this one, drag it and drop it inside, change its color to white, and finally remove the old icon. And just like that, our menu items are ready and aligned. All right, good. So now we can simply select this logo group and align it with our menu items, okay? So if I just select this frame inside this menu item, I can see that the left margin is set to 81 pixels. I can set it to 81 as well. And for the top margin, I'm gonna set its margin to 48 pixels. What else do we need here? We are gonna create an indicator to indicate that the user is on the dashboard tab, okay? So I'm gonna simply use a rectangle here and I'm gonna set its height to 72 pixels, okay? Just like this. Let me bring it here. I'm gonna decrease its width to 4 pixels and let me change its color to white. And then I'm gonna make sure that it's aligned with this rectangle that we created, okay? And what I'm gonna do now is increase the corner radius of these two corners, okay? So right here, I can specify the corner radius of this top right corner and bottom right corner to maybe 16. Okay, it looks very good. I can put this indicator inside this particular group. So let me just drag it and put it inside that particular group. There it is. But here we have an issue. All these menu items are active. That's not what we want. Apart from this indicator, we need to adjust the color of inactive items. So I'm going to select this frame inside this group and I'm going to change this white color in the selection colors with this color, okay? This light purple color using the eyedropper. And I can simply copy this hex color code and then just select other frames inside these menu items, just like this, and paste that hex color code here for all of them. So let me do that one by one. I'm gonna fast forward this process. All right, we are done. Now that our menu items are ready, let's set the margins. I'm gonna select these top menu items and I'm gonna set the top margin here to 72 pixels, just like this. And for these two, let me select them both. I'm gonna set the bottom margin to 48 pixels, just like this. And now our sliding menu is ready. It looks very clean and beautiful. I hope you like it. Okay, so let's select all these items and these elements and group them together, just like that. And I'm gonna call it slide menu. Okay, good. Now we can move on to the content part on the right side. What do we need here? Since it's an e-commerce dashboard, I'm gonna place a few cards, maybe 3 cards, with the information about the total revenue of this particular store, the total expenses, and the number of sales. Probably we could have a few bar charts or a line chart. And then right at the bottom, we are going to place a specific section about recent messages that this particular store received. And right at the top, we are going to have a header that includes the user's profile image, email address, a notification icon, and also a sort section on the left side. But first, let's start with the main content right here. I'm going to create a text layer and I'm going to write dashboard. Let me increase its font size to 36 points and I'm gonna make it extra bold. And for the color, let me change it to this dark gray because I'm not gonna use pure black here. Then let me duplicate it, move it down, And here I'm going to write welcome back and then the user's name. So let's write welcome back, comma, maybe John. Now I'm going to decrease the font size to 16 points, and also let me change its weight to medium, and then let's change its color to this light gray neutral color to have a better visual hierarchy. As for the margin, I'm gonna set the margin here to 0 because we have some internal padding here and it would be too much if I added more margins here. Okay, let me select them both and align them with my column here, just like that. What else do we need? Well, as I said, we are going to create a few cards in order to provide the user with essential information about the store, probably revenue, expenses, and the number of sales. Here we have 12 columns and we are going to need 3 cards. Therefore, each card should cover 4 columns here. So let me create a rectangle just like that and make sure that its width covers 4 columns. Let me increase the height here to something like 260, just like this. We can adjust it later according to our needs, but for now I'm gonna increase its corner radius to make it rounded. Let me set the corner radius to 24 pixels, and next I'm gonna change its color to white, okay? But you might say, alright, we have a white background as well. We are gonna change it. I'm gonna select my frame, my whole frame, and I'm gonna change the background's color to this very light purple, okay? And now our card pops a little bit more. So what do we need for this card? I'm gonna place a title, then the amount, the total amount of the revenue, and right here I'm gonna place an icon which shows us the trend, whether we have an upward trend or downward trend, okay? And finally here we can place a bar chart. So let's create a text layer. I'm gonna hit T and create one, and let's write revenue. The font size looks good. The only thing I'm gonna change here is the color. So let me change the color to this light gray. Obviously it would be better to create some text styles and color styles, but since it's not a complete project, I'm just gonna use this eyedropper to pick colors quickly. Next, I'm gonna duplicate it, bring it down, and here I'm gonna specify the amount. So let's write $2,400.50, and I'm gonna make it larger. So let's increase the font size to 24 points. Next, let's make it bold, and also I'm gonna change its color to this dark gray. Okay, as for the margin, I'm gonna set the margin to 4 pixels, just like this. I'm gonna select them both, and I'm gonna set the top and left padding to 32 pixels. So let me move them up and to the left side. Good. And as I said, we are gonna have an icon right here. So let me look for this upward trend. I'm gonna duplicate it and just bring it right here. Let's place it there. I'm gonna change its color to this light gray that we have right here, and its top and right margins are gonna be set to 32 pixels. All right, good. Now we can go ahead and create our bar chart. So let's create a rectangle just like this, and I'm gonna set its width to 16 pixels and its height to 110 pixels, and then make sure that it's completely rounded. I'm gonna place it right here. For this bar chart, we are gonna have 2 bars sitting on top of each other. All right, so now let's change its color to probably this light neutral purple, maybe this one, okay? And now I can simply zoom in, duplicate it. So now we have 2 bars sitting on top of each other. I can just decrease its height just like this and try to change its color. For this bar, I'm gonna use a gradient, a linear gradient. Let me change the first color to this purple, and the second one, I'm gonna increase the opacity to 100%. Okay, I'm gonna set it to the same color. However, I'm gonna create a tint of this purple color by adding white to my base color, just like this. You see, something like this looks very, very good. Okay, so our first bar is ready. Now I'm gonna select this front bar and this bar in the back, group them, and let's call it bar. Next, I'm gonna duplicate it a few times. So let me duplicate it just like this. And now I can select them all, okay? And since I have an even spacing here, I can adjust the spacing between. But if you can't see this property here, you can simply head over to this more options and click on distribute horizontal spacing, and then you will see this option for sure. I'm gonna set the spacing between to 16 pixels, and now I'm gonna randomly select this front bar and adjust its height, just like this, okay? To make it look more realistic, maybe this one a little bit shorter, this one a little bit longer, this one shorter, just like this, okay? I think it looks good. You can adjust them however you think is best. Alright, good. Now let me just hide my layout grid so that I can see everything clearly. I'm gonna select all these bar groups one by one, just like this. And I'm gonna set the top margin to 24 pixels and the left margin to 32 pixels. But here, as you can see, I cannot set the bottom margin to 32. Therefore, I'm gonna select my rectangle, my background, this card, and I'm gonna increase the height to 262 pixels. And for sure, I'll get a 32 pixel bottom margin now. Just like that, our bar chart is ready. I can simply group all these bars and let's call it bar chart. Alright, but there is one more thing I'd like to add here, and that is a stroke. I'm gonna select my card here, and I'm gonna add a stroke to it. And for the color, I'm gonna set it to this purple, and then let's decrease its opacity to 10%. Look what we've got here. You see we've got this beautiful stroke, which is not too bright, it's not distracting, and it doesn't look bad, but it helps this card to elevate a little bit more, okay? Now we can select all these items and group them. Let's call it revenue card. Good. I can unhide my layout grid now and just duplicate this card 2 times. I'm gonna duplicate it once and one more time. Okay. So let me rename this one quickly. It's gonna be the expenses card, and this one is gonna be the sales card. So let's hide my layout grid, and I'm gonna change these information. I'm gonna start with this title. It's gonna be expenses now, okay? And also this icon should be changed. So we need this downward trend now. Let's duplicate it and just bring it right here. I'm gonna replace it with the previous icon. Okay, let me set the top and right margins to 32 pixels and change its color to light gray to keep everything consistent and clean. Okay, as for the total amount here, let me change it to something else, maybe 1850.20. And for this bar chart, I'm gonna use another color, okay? First, let me adjust its values, just like this. Okay, I'm gonna quickly change them. Maybe this one should be a little bit taller, this one taller as well, maybe this one shorter, something like this. Next, I'm gonna select this bar chart group, okay? And I'm gonna head over to this selection colors because I don't wanna change them one by one, all right? It's a tedious task. So I can simply select the group, head over to the selection color section and just click on this linear gradient. And for this, I'm gonna use this pink color. So let me select this pink color for the first color and for the second color as well. And just like what we did with the previous gradient here, I'm gonna make sure to select this second color and make it brighter. Just add some white to it. Okay, beautiful. So just like that, our expenses card is also ready. Okay, now let's move on to the sales card. So here, I'm gonna change the title to sales, and the amount is gonna be the number of sales. Let's write maybe 5,678, just like that. And also I'm gonna change this icon. So I have this shop icon here. I'm gonna duplicate it and just bring it right here quickly. Let me replace it with my previous icon. Just set the top and right margins to 32 pixels and adjust its color to light gray. Just like this. But for this card, I'm gonna have another type of chart. I'm gonna create a line chart here. There are many plugins that you can use to create a line chart, but those charts don't look very good, so I'm gonna create it from scratch. Let me show you how it's done. I'm gonna start by creating a few horizontal lines. So let's create a line just like this. Hold down the Shift key to create a line, and maybe I can decrease its width to 243 pixels. Next, let me change its color to this light purple, just like that. And I'm gonna duplicate it a few times, maybe 3 times. So in total, we are gonna have 4 lines. I'm gonna select them all. And for now, I'm gonna set the spacing to 24, okay? We can adjust it later if we need to. All right, what else do we need? Well, for this line chart, we are gonna have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. right at the bottom. And then here we are gonna have some values, maybe 1K, 2K, 3K, 4K, okay? So let's start by creating the days right here. I'm gonna create a text layer and I'm gonna decrease the font size to 11. It's gonna be so small. And also the weight is gonna be regular. So let's write M, and I'm gonna change its color to this light gray. So let me quickly change it just like that. Okay. Next, I'm gonna duplicate it a few times. So hit Ctrl D or Command D, duplicate it a few times. We are gonna need 7 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Good. And let me quickly change them. We are gonna have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Let me select them all. I'm gonna click on this little icon to have an even space between them. And I'm gonna set the space to 32 pixels, just like that. I can move them to the left side to align them with my lines. Let me group them, and I'm gonna call it days. For the top margin, I'm gonna set it to 12 pixels, it's fine. Now I'm gonna create another text layer, and here let's write 1K, and let's change the color to this light gray. I'm gonna put it right there, duplicate it 3 times, and let's change them to 2K, 3K, and 4K. Okay, now let's select them all, align them to the right side. An 8 pixel left margin looks fine. Maybe here we could have an 8 pixel bottom margin as well. Yeah, it looks much better now. Okay, the last thing we need to create here is a line, okay, a curved line. I can use the pencil for that purpose. I'm gonna left click to create a node, left click and drag somewhere else, just like this maybe, and just left click here and here. And now I can modify the curve here. So I'm gonna select this node, and using these handles, I can simply create a smoother curve, just like this. Something like that looks very good. But we need to increase the thickness, obviously. I'm gonna increase it to 5, and let me put it above these lines. So here we don't have rounded corners. I can simply adjust it here using these menus. I'm gonna set it to round. And as for the color, I'm gonna use a gradient, a linear gradient, just like this, okay? And let's choose the purple and this pink. It would be a good combination. I'm gonna select this purple, and for this color, let's increase the opacity to 100% and choose this pink. Looks very good. You can simply adjust this line chart as you wish. I can simply select it, hit enter to enter the edit mode, select each node and simply reposition them however I want. I think it looks good. Maybe I can increase its width to something like that. Alright, now let's select all these elements, including these lines and all these values, just like that. Group them, hit Ctrl G or Command G. Okay, I can move it now. And let's specify the padding here. As for the left and bottom padding, I'm gonna set them to 32 pixels, just like that. And make sure that this group is inside your sales card. And also this icon should be inside this card. And as you can see, this icon is not inside our expenses card. So let me put it inside. All right, so far so good. So our cards are ready. And now we can move on to the next section, which is the recent messages section. For this section, I'm going to create a title. So let me quickly create a text layer and just write recent messages. And I'm going to increase the font size to 24 points. And also let me change the weight to semi-bold, just like that. And the color is going to be this dark gray. All right. I'm gonna align it with my card. I can put it right here. We will adjust the spacing later. So for this recent messages section, we are gonna have a large card that covers all our columns, okay? So I can unhide my layout grid for a second. I can select one of our cards here, this rectangle, copy it, paste it here, bring it down, and then adjust its width and make sure that it covers our 12 columns. And let me set its height to maybe 264 pixels. Here we need to have a 16 pixel margin between this title and this card. Okay, so what do we need here? Let me just hide this layout grid. Here we need to have the profile image of that particular user, the name, surname, and also the subject of their message, the status of their message, whether it's solved, whether it's pending, and then the time, okay, on the right side. So let's start with profile images, okay? I'm going to create a circle just like this. Let's set its width and height to 56 pixels. It's not going to be too big, so it's going to be the placeholder. Next, we need a text layer for our name. So let's write name here. I'm going to decrease its font size to 14 points. And also I'm going to modify its weight to regular. Next, I'm going to duplicate it, move it to the right side. Here we are going to have that subject. Okay, let's write subject for now. And once again, duplicate it. Here I'm going to write status. And finally, duplicate it. We are going to have time. I'm going to select this time text layer. And I'm gonna align it to the right side since it's gonna be placed right here, okay? And then I'm gonna select all of these text layers and also this profile image and duplicate them, hit Ctrl D or Command D, move them down. Let's set the margin to 16 pixels and duplicate it once again, just like this. Okay, good. For the profile images, I'm gonna select these 3 circles, okay? And then I'm going to go to my plugins and I'm going to look for this user profile plugin. You can use any plugin you want for that. If you have some profile images, you can go ahead and use them. But for this project, I prefer to use this user profile plugin. I'm going to just hit run. There we go. Make sure that you select both female and male and hit insert random photo button. All right. I think these images look very good. Next, we need a few names. So I'm gonna select this text layer. And this time I'm gonna use the Content Reel plugin. I'm gonna look for Content Reel. There it is. I'm gonna run it. Let's go to the text tab. And here I'm gonna look for full name, first, last by Microsoft. All right, so here I can choose Jenny. Maybe you can use the random option as well if you want. Let's select this text layer and look for maybe Christine, just like this. And for this one, maybe Albert. Very good. And for the subject, I'm gonna write, how can I return a package? Question mark. Don't worry about this overlapping section. We are gonna fix that. For this one, I'm gonna write questions about the product. And finally, for this one, let's write discount code. Now let me select these status text layers and also these time text layers, move them to the right side, okay? And for the status, for the first one, I'm gonna write answered. This one is gonna be pending. This one pending as well. And for the time, let's write 12:45. This one could be 10:04, and this one could be yesterday. All right, now let's set the spacing. I'm gonna select these text layers, the name text layers, and I'm gonna make sure that the left margin is set to 24 pixels, just like this. And also I'm gonna make sure that my text layers have a specific fixed width, okay? To do that, I can simply expand this boundary, just like this. I'm gonna make sure that the width of each text layer is set to something like 220. This one as well. Let's set it to 220, and this one as well. Now let me select these subjects, move them to the right side, okay? And I'm gonna align them with these text layers. And since we have a fixed text width, we can simply align them. I'm gonna set the left margin here to 32 pixels. Nice. And these text layers should have a specific width as well. So I'm gonna select them one by one, adjust its width, and set the width to 320 pixels. For this one as well, adjust the width, set it to 320 pixels, and this one as well, adjust the width, set it to 320 pixels. Okay, next let me select these text layers, move them to the right side, set the padding to 32 pixels, just like that, and I can select these text layers, the status text layers, move them to the right side, and I can set the left margin to 32 pixels. Alright, we have an issue here with these photos. I'm gonna select all these elements except the time, just like this, one by one. Let's select them all and move them to the left side. I'm gonna set the left padding to 32 pixels, like that. Okay, and our card looks very good. We just need to modify the colors a little bit. I'm gonna select these time text layers and let me change their color to this light gray we have right here. And also these pending text layers are gonna use the same light gray. However, this answered status is gonna use the primary color, which is this purple. All right, our card looks very good. We just need to group all elements together. So let's select them all. I'm gonna select them right here, hit Ctrl G or Command G, and I'm gonna call it messages card. Perfect. The last thing we need to create is the header right here. Okay, so what do I need here? I'm gonna create a rectangle right at the top, just like this. Okay, and I'm gonna make sure that it covers the whole available width of this frame, and I'm gonna set its height to maybe 98, and let's make it white. I'm gonna put it behind my slide menu, so let's bring it down. What do we need here? As I said, we need a profile image, we need the name, surname, the email address, and the notification icon. So let's start with the profile image. I'm gonna create a circle, hold down the Shift key, create a circle. Let's set the width and height to 50 pixels, and I'm gonna use the same plugin, user profile. Let me look for it. I'm gonna run it here. So since our user is a man, I'm gonna look for a male image. So insert random photo. Okay, it looks good. Next, we need a text layer. So just create a text layer, and I'm gonna adjust the font size. Let's increase the font size to 16 points for this text layer, and I'm gonna make it semi-bold, and let's write John Smith. I'm gonna change the alignment to left and put it right here. Let me duplicate it, move it down. Here we are gonna have the email address, therefore it should be a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna set the font size to 14 points, and it's gonna be light. Let's write johnsmith@gmail.com. Okay, good. I'm gonna set the margin to 0. It's fine, we have some internal padding. However, I'm gonna change its color to this light gray to have a better hierarchy. Let me select them both, group them. Next, I'm gonna set the left margin to 12 pixels. Just like this. And we need an indicator here as well. So using that indicator, we can clearly understand whether the user is online or not. I'm gonna create a circle hold down the shift key and create a circle. I'm going to make sure that the width and height are set to 12 pixels. Change its color to green, okay, as a semantic color. So I think something like this looks very good. And also I'm going to add a stroke to it. So let's change the color to white and increase the thickness to 2 and make sure that it's set to inside, not outside. I'm gonna align it with this image. I think it looks very good now. We can group these two, and also let's align these two groups vertically. Hit Ctrl G to group them, and let's write profile content. Now I'm gonna unhide my layout grid for a second so that I could align this particular group easily. I'm gonna put it right here. Let me hide my grid now. And now I'm gonna select this profile content group, hold down the shift key and select this rectangle as our header and align them vertically, just like that. So here we have a 24 pixel top and bottom padding. Right next to it, let's put a bell notification icon. We have it right here. I'm gonna select it, duplicate it, and just bring it right there. And then I'm gonna change its color to this light gray. And also this icon should have such an indicator, okay? Just like what we have for this profile image. So let's double click on this indicator, copy it and paste it right here. But this one is gonna be much smaller. So I'm gonna set the width and height to 8 pixels and decrease the stroke to 1. Let me put it right here and change the color to our pink secondary color. I'm gonna set the right margin to 24 pixels and make sure that it's aligned to the center vertically. And just like that, this right part is ready. Now let's create the last part, which is the sort drop menu. So for that, I'm gonna need a text layer. Let's write sort. I'm gonna increase the font size to 16 points. And also let's change the weight to medium. The color is gonna be this dark gray. And then we need a drop menu. For that, we need an outlined rectangle. So let me just quickly create one, just like this. I'm gonna set its width to 140 pixels and its height to 34. And I'm gonna make it rounded. So let me set the corner radius amount to maybe 12 pixels. Oops, my height is set to 24. I'm gonna set it to 34 pixels, just like that. Let's remove the fill. Add a stroke to it. The thickness looks fine. I'm just gonna change the stroke color to our main primary color and just decrease its opacity to 10%. Now we need a text layer. Let's write last week. I'm gonna decrease the font size to maybe 12 points. And also its color is gonna be light gray, just like that. Let's align it here. The top and bottom padding are gonna be set to 8 pixels and the left padding is gonna be 16 pixels. Here on the right side, I'm gonna place a down arrow and I have it right here. So let me duplicate it, bring it right here. Okay, it's too big. I'm gonna scale it down. I'm gonna hit K, hold down the Shift key and Alt key on your keyboard and just scale it down. I'm gonna set the width to 12 and the height to 12 as well. Let's put it right here and change the color to light gray, just like this. Let me check the padding. I'm gonna set the right padding to 16 pixels. Okay, it looks very good and you can align it with your text layer. I'm gonna group all these elements one by one. Let's call it drop down menu. I'm gonna write drop down here. And for the left margin, I'm gonna set it to 8 pixels and make sure that they are aligned to center. And now I'm gonna align them with these text layers, okay? So if I unhide my layout grid, you can see that they are perfectly aligned. Everything looks very clean. We are almost done. The only thing left here is to set the correct spacing here. So let me hide my layout grid. I'm gonna select these two text layers and I'm gonna set their top margin to 24 pixels. Next, let's select these cards and set their top margin to 32 pixels. And finally, I'm gonna select this card and this title, and I'm gonna set the top margin to 48 pixels. Alright, cool. One more thing we can do is to select this rectangle and just make these two corners rounded. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the independent corner radius section and I'm gonna adjust the top right corner and the bottom right corner radius. Let's increase it to 48 pixels and here 48 as well. It looks much better now. And as you can see, our dashboard is ready. But before we wrap up, I'm going to show you how to present this dashboard. In case you want to post it on Dribbble or on Behance, I'm going to show you how you can create a good presentation. I'm going to need a frame. Just hit A and create a large frame, just like this. And then I'm going to set the background color to this light purple. We can make it a little bit darker if you want. Next, let's select this dashboard, duplicate it, put it inside this frame, and I'm gonna increase the corner radius of this whole frame to 48 pixels. Okay, it looks much better now. Let's align it to the center. Alright, good. Let me change my background's color a little bit. I don't like it. Something like this works much better in my opinion. Now what we can do is this. We can select our slide menu and we can bring it outside this frame. Let me show you how. I'm gonna just drag it and drop it outside this frame, and then let's select this background and adjust the corner radius amount to 48 and 48. Since we are preparing this presentation, let's select the slide menu group and I can move it up just like this and move it to the left probably a little bit. We can add some drop shadow to it. Let's do that quickly. I'm gonna use the same color as my drop shadow color. Decrease the opacity to 10%, set the blur amount to maybe 50 and adjust the Y to 25. The other thing you can do is this. You can simply select this messages card and then expand it. So let me show you what I mean. I can bring it out, then I can select the card and increase its height, and then I can duplicate one of these rows, duplicate it, bring it down, and I can change the information here, right? I'm not gonna do that because that's not the point. I just wanted to show you how you can simply create this beautiful presentation for social media. Alright guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Have a beautiful day and see you next time.